should. Hello, anybody and everybody who is out there in your homes watching. Hannah Fountain, Christy Geidel, and we're going to be doing Our Lady's Bible Study live today. And then you can watch it later if you missed the live. And we've also got comments available here, so if anybody wants to chime in or ask a question throughout, we'll
make a comment.
Yes, or make a comment. Then we'll be seeing your comments here. And so we are in Proverbs chapter 11, and I hope everybody is having a good day. I hope everybody is safe and healthy and not going crazy. We have moments of crazy at our house,
yes.
But then, you know, I don't know, it's been good. I've been so enriched by everything that I've seen online from so many people just trying to provide encouragement and there's been so much good stuff out there. So anyway, that's what we're trying to contribute to good stuff today. So Proverbs 11, we have loved our study. If you're jumping on and you've never watched Our Lady's Bible Study, we have 2 other recorded ones that we've done, and then the others, before every quarantine hit, we were all meeting at a coffee shop and doing a study through the book of Proverbs and loving it, and it was growing. Lots of ladies were coming, and so we just wanted to have that still available. I know a lot of our church ladies are on Facebook
and asking about it.
Yeah, and I've even heard, since we've posted the last videos, I've been hearing some people saying that they've watched it that I didn't even know were watching it. So it's so it's really cool. Proverbs 11 is where we're going to be today. So why don't you want to start us off in a word of prayer and then kind of get going into it?
All right, let's go ahead and pray. Heavenly Father, we love you. We thank you for the ability to come and study your word, if not in person, then over the internet. I pray that you would bless this time of study, calm everybody at home, send their children outside to play, help everybody to just be able to focus for a few minutes and study your word, listen to your spirit, and bless our lives and help us to be better women and better Christians because of it. In your name, amen. All right, so we left off at the end of verse 22. We were talking about the jewels in the swine snout, and which is a fun verse, you know. And you can't make a purse out of a sow's ear. It's the whole dressing ugly things up to make them look pretty is silly. And then the rest of the chapter, verses 23 all the way through 31, they tend to group together really well. And it's actually very apt, or it goes really well with what's going on today, or this time in our lives, because it's all about being generous and being selfish and choosing what to do in godly ways versus selfish ways. Yeah. So if it's all right, I'm just going to read through the end of the chapter and we're going to talk about it. And so Proverbs chapter 11, verse 23, the desire of the righteous is only good, but the expectation of the wicked is wrath. There is that scattereth, and yet increaseth, and there is that withholdeth more than is meet, but it tendeth to poverty. The liberal soul shall be made fat, and he that watereth shall be watered also himself. He that withholdeth corn, the people shall curse him, but blessings shall be upon the head of him that selleth it. He that diligently seeketh good procureth favor, but he that seeketh mischief, it shall come unto him. He that trusteth in his riches shall fall, but the righteous shall flourish as a branch. He that troubleth his own house shall inherit the wind, and the fool shall be servant to the wise of heart. The fruit of the righteous is a tree of life, and he that winneth souls is wise. Behold, the righteous shall be recompensed in the earth, much more the wicked and the sinner. So it goes a lot along with contrasting the righteous versus the foolish, or the righteous versus the evil. And a lot of times this is what I'm trying to think of the people. It's the wise, and then it's not the foolish.
Simple.
Not the simple, but it's it's evil, right? Evil? Wicked. The wicked, right?
Okay. Yeah. Are you talking about our
Proverbs
people? So
people.
we've only, I guess the wicked would probably be lumped in with the foolish, because we did wise, simple, scorner, and fool.
Scorner, okay.
But I think that probably wicked would go right in there.
With
the
this-
foolish.
Okay.
And it almost seems more like a planned foolishness, like wickedness,
Like
you know. Like
okay, like a scorner almost.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Scorner / foolish. Okay, never mind. Okay, so we're gonna go in. The verse 23 we talked about a tiny bit before, I think, but it just says that the righteous seeketh only good, but the expectation of the wicked is wrath. So I really think it's a great lump sum of people who choose to do good, find it. And people who choose to do wicked, find it.
Yeah.
And so it's a promise that you should expect to get wrath if you're choosing wicked things.
Right.
Whereas the righteous, you can see righteous people based on what they want.
Yeah. It almost seems like I had written down when I was reading through this earlier, like I guess a modern or a not necessarily modern, but maybe like a different mindset of this would be like karma.
Yeah.
It's almost like this is the original God's version.
It's
of
gonna
karma.
come to you.
It's just a simple concept, and it is true that what we give out comes back around to us. And God set that up before the foundation of the world.
Yep.
That good decisions have good consequences, and bad decisions have bad ones. And it's just kind of set in motion with the world and with humanity that it's like a natural built-in consequence. That's like what I teach my kids, right? It's attached. It's built in. It's not like you do something bad and God is mad and he zaps you. It's there is a natural bad consequence that comes with that bad decision. So.
Right, and it's almost not God doing it, it's you doing it to yourself.
Exactly.
It's gonna happen.
Yes.
Yeah. So verse 24, there is that scattereth yet increaseth. And this idea of scattering goes back to the farmer, and it goes really well with the parable of the sower. You're scattering seeds.
Yeah.
But the idea here isn't someone who just blindly throws their money or their goods away. It's intentional generosity is what scattereth is. And it's a parallel. If you're generous, then you actually gain from it instead of losing. And a lot of people think that, oh, well, if I give this all away, then I'm losing what I need.
Yeah.
And it's not true, because God looks to bless the people who are being generous.
Right.
And so people who scattereth increaseth, and there is those who withhold, and it tendeth to poverty.
Right.
So it's this backwards, like first shall be last idea, that if you are keeping more than what you need, so more than is meat, meaning more than what you need, if you're hoarding or buying stockpiles of things just because, then you've actually set yourself up to be in a poverty situation, or God is going to not necessarily not bless you, but you're not going to receive as many blessings for being like that.
Right, and it's completely opposite of what human thinking and the natural man would think, that if I hoard things and collect things, and if I take care of me, and you do you, I'll do me, and we just gather as much as we can. I think in our human nature, it makes sense that if I keep more, I have more.
Right, and then you're safe.
Yeah.
It's like your security is in how much you have.
Right, but then there's this other thinking that God always puts out, right? He always puts out this opposite thinking, and that is, and I think even the teachings of Jesus are so much more, even above and beyond. I'm reading through Matthew right now in my Bible time, and Jesus just challenges you to think outside of our natural thinking, and rather than thinking, okay, if I hoard, I'm gonna be rich. But that intentional generosity that you said, scattering, intentionally giving, knowing that God is going to bless me, He's going to take care of me. I think especially when we're giving intentionally, not just like, oh, I got to get this all out.
Right. Find someone to give it to.
So that God can bless me, but more like, okay, I see a need here, and I'm going to look for needs. I'm going to be that person who looks for where can I be intentional about my generosity.
Right.
And that I think that will come back to us as Christians, that God gives back to us. I'm just going to insert this right here on this verse, because I was reading this earlier and thinking about a couple that really affected my life in this area. And I don't know if anybody watching may have known this couple, but I've brought them up before when I've taught lessons and ladies stuff. But they were missionaries to Mexico, and their names are John and Wanda Casillas, and they were missionaries. And I know my in-laws knew them well. Our church that my husband and I used to be on staff at, we supported them. And they were a couple that didn't go to the mission field until they were in their 70s. And he had like a multi-million-dollar business, and they were very successful. And he felt like God called them to the mission field to Mexico. And so he didn't, because of his financial situation, he didn't need to go around and gather support or anything. He just basically took all of that and put it straight into his mission.
How cool.
And they moved to Mexico without needing to go around. So they did get churches that chose to support them, but they didn't necessarily need that in order to go. So they didn't have like a huge following of people. They just did what God told them to do and went. And they came and visited our church in Lakewood, and that's when I actually met them and heard their story. And Wanda was just the coolest lady ever. I took her out shopping. She needed to get a few things. And I found out later that she actually didn't want to go shopping. She didn't need anything. She didn't buy anything. But she wanted to go to all these stores. And then she would walk up to the cash register and hand them like a gospel tract or something that had the gospel on it. And she would just say to them, she'd hand it to them, and she'd just say, "Hey, can you read this? This changed my life." And she was just the sweetest, and I was just like in awe watching her boldness. And then I remember driving, and she was in the passenger seat, and we were driving down the road, and here comes along the side of the road this gal running in like this neon pink, workout suit or running suit, whatever it was. It was just like blindingly pink, And so we're driving along, and she goes, "Wow, that is a bright suit." And I said, "Yeah, I was just thinking that." And she goes, "You know what? Turn the car around. We didn't notice that suit for no reason." So I turned the car around. She jumps out and she says, "Hey, we just noticed your really awesome bright pink suit, and I wanted to tell you about something that changed my life." And she gives this girl a tract, and I was just like, wow, this lady, she just puts all of the rest of us to shame.
Yeah.
And so she's just so bold in her witness. And it was not long after that they went back to the mission field, and it wasn't long after that they were both, John and Wanda, were murdered in their home. And this was, it had to have been like 8 years ago now. But I remember hearing the news of them and just thinking back to the time that I spent with Wanda. And the fact that they gave their life completely. They gave up all of their money.
Literally everything.
They gave up their finances, and they gave up, like, she, in her witness, she gave of her own pride, and she didn't keep anything for herself. And then they literally gave their lives. And they were the first thing that popped into my mind when I read this. There is that scattereth and yet increaseth. Because I think any Christian who looks at that story or looks at their life is like, that story literally builds me as a Christian. It makes me, it's part of my Christian faith, is looking at someone's life like theirs, and then let alone the rewards that they've received in heaven and are continuing to receive, and their ministry continues to live on in Mexico, and just all the things. There's so many rewards that they're experiencing, and it's because they were like this. Right. They were intentionally generous people in every single way. So it's a challenge. It really is a challenge to us to get out of our thinking of what can I get, what can I hoard for myself, and just say, God, in every way, I want to be generous.
Yeah,
so, anyway.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I love that story, because a lot of times it's hard to step out of physical and think spiritually, but that's exactly what they were doing, was not only physically scattering, but spiritually scattering as well.
Yes.
So, and it goes right into verse 24. The liberal soul shall be made fat, and he that watereth shall be watered also himself. And being made fat is actually being wealthy.
Yeah.
My little sister and my dad both got to go to South Africa to visit some missionaries there. And my little sister, she's skinny. Like, she's the skinniest of the family, $120, tiny little, we would never ever even think there was a bit of fat on her body. You can see all of her vertebrae. And when she was in South Africa, they would always ask, "Why are you so fat? Why are you so fat?" And it was a compliment, because she looked healthy, and people who are healthy are wealthy.
Wow. Because,
poverty immediately shows in your physical countenance.
Right.
And so this is saying those people shall be, why are you so fat? we are able to become fat spiritually, just blessings poured on us when we're being liberal.
Yeah, and this is a positive fat.
Yes.
Like, we think, oh, I don't want to become fat, but this is a really good thing. Like, you know, being that liberal, that generous, and it's a positive liberal and it's positive fat.
Right. Where in the Bible can you find it being liberal and being fat good?
Right, exactly. So don't think of liberal like politics, and don't think of fat like physical, like you know, indulgence. But think more generosity and blessings,
like
because
overflowing.
Of that. Yes, overflowing.
Yeah. Because you know that's what fat is anyways, all the extras your body's saving.
My dad, whenever he talks about this, so my dad's like Proverbs guy so much, and whenever he says this, or he always has to reference, he's like, well, you know, if you're fat, you're always touching everyone because you can't. So he always brings that up. He's like, you know, you can't walk through the line of a
like an
airplane or an aisle without touching. And he's like, so this is the good kind of fat because you're touching everybody's lives and sharing.
That's awesome. Yeah. And then it goes more on top of that. He that watereth shall be watered all himself. And this is the thought that you can't bless others if you yourself are empty. Yeah. And the way to be filled is to bless others. It's this incredible cycle that the more you give, the more you are being blessed. Yeah. And not only from God, but from the blessings that you get as a human by blessing others. Yes. I mean, just the joy that you get by passing it on to other people. When I was a freshman in college, our very first chapel, they did a skit about joy, and they all started with this little, they shook it, they're like, this is your joy, it's like a living ball, and they said, this is what your life revolves around, your happy, your joy, this is what's going to keep you going during the day. And so then these people went out and you saw the interactions with their life, and you know, one encountered something sad and the joy kept them happy. And there was this one person who saw another person who needed something, so they were like, oh, here, and they gave their joy away, and all of a sudden they got it back, but it was this big now, and so he was carrying it around. And then he saw someone crying and he hugged them and gave them his ball of joy, and it came back and it was this big. And so all of these 4 people, they met back at the end of the day, and the guy who had given it away was carrying this giant ball of joy, this big, and everyone else was holding theirs. And it's the idea that every time you bless someone else, you are blessed because of it, just as a sub benefit of it.
Yeah, that's so good. I love that example. Like, it's a great mental image, and it just helps us. I think those kind of pictures help us remember not to just think about ourselves, you know. And I like how it says, like, compares it to being watered, because like things that are watered actually grow. They're increasing.
Yes,
that makes sense.
And that comes back, the growing comes back in a later verse that I love. He that withholdeth corn, the people shall curse him, but blessing shall be upon the head of him that selleth it. So Solomon is pounding this idea in like 6 or 7 different ways, that the person who, and this is actually like a free market idea, that if you've got this storehouse of grain, and you are usually selling it, but at this point you're holding it, waiting for the market to fluctuate so that you can get a better price for it. So the idea behind the withholding corn and the people cursing him is, instead of being fair and selling it at a fair price and blessing the community, he's actually doing harm to the society by waiting for the price to hike up so he can sell it for more. And so then he that sells it, sells it as the need arises, then he is blessed because of it. But not only because he's physically being blessed with money, but also people see him better. He's a better businessman, a higher figure in the community when he's doing what's good for others.
Yeah, and I think that's a great reminder too, that if you do have something, like whatever it is that you have, all of us have gifts and abilities and things we can do, and to make it available to people, you know. And I think we've had this conversation because we've each got businesses, but that, you know, sometimes as a Christian you can struggle with the whole business idea, the business side of things, and does God want me to sell things and get money from people? But I think there's so much in Proverbs about wisdom and with your finances, and even verses like this, when God gives you an ability or even the desire to provide something, to do it, and that God will bless that, because you are blessing others by allowing them to partake of your talents and your gifts. That is a blessing to other people.
And managing that wisely, not pricing your prices so high that nobody can afford it, or even we have this hard time of being taken advantage because you want to bless others, but at some point there's a tipping point where it's no longer blessing you, it's just a burden. So you've got to be able to be wise.
You have to use wisdom. You have to
find what point is the best for people.
Yes.
And you.
Yeah.
So that is verse 26. Verse 27, he that diligently seeketh good procureth favor, but he that seeketh mischief, it shall come unto him. This is another repetition of verse 23. You get what you give. If you're looking for good, you'll get it. If you're looking for bad, it's going to come. 28, he that trusteth in his riches shall fall, but the righteous shall flourish as a branch. And this is where I was going to go back to the watering. Is Proverbs over and over again doesn't say that riches are bad. It actually teaches you a lot about how to build your wealth, care for it, do what's wise with it. Seeking to be rich isn't bad. But if you trust in your riches, that's where the problem comes. When you're seeking your security and your favor in how rich you are, and that's what this verse is saying. If you trust in what you've gained, then you will fall. And the opposite side of that is the righteous shall flourish as a branch. And it's hard to kind of see the parallel between someone trusting their riches and the righteous. Like, it's not a direct contrast like a lot of them. But it goes back to the person who's being watered. Is if you're generous and you're being watered, you're flourishing. And the righteous person doesn't have things put on them that make them look righteous. It actually grows out of them, like a flourishing branch or a flower that's growing as you were being generous and not seeking your safety so much in your wealth, but building yourself by being generous with that wealth. Then you grow into this beautiful righteous person.
I think it's so interesting too. I like that Solomon, this whole passage we're doing, verses through 31, down through the end of the chapter, it is all on the same topic, but he could have just said in one statement, you give out bad, you're going to get bad. You give out good, you're going to get good. But instead of saying it all in one statement, he decided to give us word pictures and different, the concepts of scattering out seeds and increasing or watering something and seeing it grow, or here something flourishing as a branch. He's giving us different ways to think about it, and I think it's for the purpose of helping us see that when we trust in God's word and we say, okay, I'm not going to hoard for myself, I'm not going to be a selfish person with my finances or with my abilities. Sometimes what we see come of that is not what we would expect. It's not, it's not like I'm going to, I will invest this much dollar amount and I expect God to give me back dollar amount. But sometimes we see benefits way above and beyond, but just in different ways. It looks different. But you look around and you say, wow, my life is flourishing. I've got all these blessings. And you can look back to times when God maybe challenged you to give a little more than was comfortable, and you see God's blessing from it. And God is just like that. He loves to surprise us and give back to us in better ways. So
and that's, you think about him as a father or a parent. We as parents, we love to surprise our kids with things or give them special little gifts or hugs and kisses when they're least expecting it. Or, if they're having an extra good day and they're behaving, you get them a treat and say, this is for being great, not because you asked, but just because I love you and I recognize what you're doing. God is the same way. The more we choose in our own selves to do good and to be generous just because we want to, the more we're going to be blessed and enriched,
Yeah.
because he sees that and he loves it when we do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So good. Love it.
So then 29, he that troubleth his own house shall inherit the wind, and the fool shall be servant to the wise of heart. Troubling his own house. That is what is happening in my life. No, just kidding. But people, there are a lot of people stuck at home together,
Yes.
more than they usually
Yes.
would be. And I know
Yeah.
that lots of people's houses are troubled right now.
Yeah.
And we are praying for you, because I understand that life throws us curveballs, like when your role as a dad changes, or
Right.
your
Right.
someone told me today, keeping your house clean when everyone's home is like trying to brush your teeth while eating Oreos.
Yeah. I think I saw something about that going around. That's funny.
Oh, but it's hard. And these people who trouble their own houses in Proverbs are not just situations that come up and you're arguing because this role is not defined or something. These are people who intentionally cause strife just to be that person who's picky, or trying to start fights intentionally, or so, someone who is foolish.
Yeah.
And it says he shall inherit the wind, because the wind more often than not does damage.
Mm-hmm.
The wind is something that is a precursor to tornadoes and hurricanes and trees blowing over and
Yeah.
garbage cans falling over, and just like today has been windy and nobody likes it and it's messy, and that's what happens to your house if you intentionally bring trouble upon it.
Yeah.
Is and not just in that situation, but in the future as well.
Yeah, yeah. And how many times do we see that actually happen in people's lives? I think it's really important to think about these kind of verses and just ask yourself, am I ever troubling my own house? I know for my husband and I, a lot of times we'll do counseling, and we'll deal with situations where people over time, like it's not like
I'm gonna
one
wake up
person
one
just,
day.
sweeps
Mhm.
in and destroys their home or destroys their marriage and has this big tornado of their life. That doesn't happen very often. Usually it's over time, and it's choices after choices after choices to just cause a little bit of trouble in your home, or maybe to find fault when you should be striving for peace in your relationship. A lot of times that stuff can just build up over time. And I know this is our ladies' Bible study. If there's any guys watching, great. But as ladies, it tends to be the ladies that many times in our homes and in our marriages, we can be the ones that are negative.
Right.
And I think that does trouble our house, and we can see the negative easily and maybe feel like it's our duty to point it out, and to look at a verse like this and remember. And I was looking up that phrase, inherit the wind, too, and it was saying one of the definitions for the wind was just nothingness. And you think about what you want to inherit. I don't want to inherit emptiness and nothingness, but sometimes that can happen when we are troubling our home, and then all of a sudden we realize, what do I have to show for this? Yeah. What actually did I accomplish by always finding the negative? So it's just a good reminder. I don't know, it is for me. Just
I understand completely.
To find the good. And I remember one lady, I don't know who this is original with, but I remember a statement that I have written in the back of my Bible that a lady from my college always said, and that was, you don't get what you want, you get what you praise. So look for the good and praise it. And I have had to remind myself of that over and over and over again, because there's so many times I think we're wanting to accomplish something, and so we try to accomplish that by pointing out the negative, rather than
change.
encouraging and praising. And it would be the opposite of troubling your house, would be to build up your house. And there's even other verses in Proverbs that talk about the wise woman builds her house. So I don't want to take it too far down.
No, I love that.
But it's just a good reminder.
Yeah, and I always was told that don't look at what you don't like about someone, or if you find yourself thinking something that you don't like, instead find something that you do like, or something that's worth more to you. And pretty soon when you see something that you don't like, you're automatically trained to turn around and ask yourself what you do like about them.
And it really does change your relationship with anybody. I mean, it doesn't have to be just husband and wife,
Right.
even among friends or among, in a church family, or just when there's sandpaper relationships.
Right.
I think that looking for something that you do like about that person really does change your outlook, change your attitude, changes even, you can enjoy the relationship, so it's good.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Verse 29, the second part says, the fool shall be servant to the wise of heart. I read something about this, and now I forgot what it was. Being a servant, being, do you have something on that? I read something about if you're always causing problems, and the wise person is always making good choices, then you will end up being lower than the wise person.
I think it correlates with a lot of other passages, other writings of Solomon, where he's talking about, he talks about the borrower is servant to the lender. The son that causes shame is a servant to the prince. He talks about you put yourself in servitude to whatever it is that you're opposing. So, like in this verse, he's saying, where to go?
Fool shall be servant to the wise of heart.
Right. So, not necessarily like in a literal sense, like you are my servant and you belong to me, but you do become, if you are if you're enslaved to your own foolish ways and you cannot break out of there's so many times we hear God's word and it's a challenge, it's against our natural thinking, but a lot of people do just kind of give up and just say, no, I'm gonna just do what comes naturally, I'm gonna do what I feel like doing,
right.
And they live day to day just making those foolish choices, and you really do become a servant or a slave to those choices, whereas if you're the wise of heart would be the one that's actually listening and saying, okay, I may not be perfect, but I'm going to make the changes God's telling me to make, with God, with your help, I'm gonna not trouble my house, and I'm gonna do all these things, little by little, just making those choices, and
you will be successful.
Yeah, you will be, and you won't feel like you're bound to yourself. You're just a slave to those choices. So,
that's great.
Just another way of helping us think about it is you don't want to feel like you are bound to something. I'd rather hold myself bound to the Word of God, knowing that He is going to bless, and like all those verses we just talked about, He's gonna make your life flourish as a branch. He's gonna bring out those
make
blessings.
you fat.
Yes, yes.
Great.
Okay.
Verse 30 and 31, the fruit of the righteousness is a tree of life, and he that winneth souls is wise. The first part goes straight back to flourishing, that the fruit of the righteous is a tree of life. And I love the idea that a righteous person is bearing something that's beautiful, something that's life-giving. That it's not just something that we can be, but it's something that we can produce and share with others. That the more we choose to do right, the more we produce, we become that rightness.
Yeah, it's so good. And then I like the next half of the verse. I think we talked about this recently. Yeah, but this is really interesting because I'm pretty sure I talked to you about this. I don't know why I jumped so far ahead in our study, but I was reading it and I had looked up some definitions, and I've always only heard this verse in the context of evangelism.
Right. There's a verse in chapter 11 that talks about, or chapter 9 that talks about winning souls as well.
Yeah, and so, it's a commonly used way to talk about winning souls is that you tell them the gospel, they receive the gospel, and then you've won a soul, which that is a Bible teaching, that is truth. The gospel of Jesus Christ has won me and it's won you, but there's also another way to look at this, and this is in the context of what Solomon's talking about. He was just talking about troubling your household, and there's an opposite side to that, and that's winning souls. And that is actually procuring the favor of the people around you, the life, whether that be your family or people you do business with. We've talked about that today. To win their souls is actually to behave so wisely and so kindly, and just to be to choose these things in your actions so that people look at you and they say, you know, that person, they've won me.
Right.
They're a good person. They you know, I can trust them financially. I can trust them not to only find the negative in me. So this verse actually is all positive.
Right.
It's
Yep,
not
there's
like a
no,
good and the bad.
you will get this.
Yeah, it's just saying, you know, if you're choosing righteousness, there's going to be all this fruit, this product in your life, all this stuff that comes good out of it. And if you win the people around you, you're wise. That is a wise thing to do. So it's all good news in verse 30.
Yes, and winning
Not so
souls.
much in 31.
Well, no. Winning souls, it's another perk of living a righteous life.
Yes.
That, you know, if it comes down to the line and people have to choose to be for or against you, those souls that you have won are the ones who will always fight for you when you come into a situation. You know, they say to live in such a way that when rumors are started about you, nobody believes them. Yeah. It's the person who will say, that's not who she is.
Right.
That's not how she behaves. I don't believe it.
Right.
Those are the people who you've won them over.
Yeah, and that just came to my mind. There's another verse that talks about, this is how it's said, is heaping to yourself friends of the mammon of unrighteousness, which really what that means is to make friends with anybody and everybody, even the wicked, even people that maybe aren't making wise choices, but to be a person that everybody can respect, good, bad, and everything in between.
Right.
People that are Christians, people that are not Christians, to be such a wise and kind person that everybody looks to you. And it even talks about how that in your time of trouble, those friends can come and support you. And so I think that's kind of what it's indicating here too, is that if you win the souls or the affection or the respect really of people, I think they're going to be there for you when you need it. So
and that can go on to win their soul in the New Testament sense, that the more people who are convinced you are honest and true, the more people will believe you when you tell them the only way to heaven is Jesus.
Right.
Because you've already convinced them that what you say is true, how you act is righteous and wise.
And that's so good. I'm glad you pointed that out too, because we've seen that happen. You know, there's been people that we've wanted to share the message of Jesus with, that it's taken time because maybe they've had a bad experience. And, you know, I don't know, maybe somebody that's even watched this would say, I've had some bad experiences with Christians, and maybe they haven't been wise in their dealings with me, or maybe they haven't been kind or honest. And if we as Christians do make wise and honest decisions, we need to think about the future. You know, other people may think about us and think, okay, I actually want to listen to you about Jesus. I want to know what you have. I want to know about his forgiveness because I've seen truth in your life. Okay.
And it's a motivation. I'm going to just keep tacking on what you say.
We could just keep, I feel like we could do a whole Bible study on every single one of these verses. We probably could just go, just dig into every single word because it's so good.
I just want to say that it's a reminder to us to live in such a way that others see righteousness. Because you never know who is watching you now that you may try to give the gospel to later. And if you've acted unwisely now, so it's a WWJD moment. Like, choose to act now so that people can see God through you, so that when you do get the opportunity to share the gospel, or maybe this is the only opportunity to share Christ to them in the way you respond to this one situation now. It should be a motivation to us to choose to be righteous.
It should motivate us. And I think that's why we read our Bibles, over and over, because it reminds us of these things, to think outside of ourselves and to remember the future possibilities if we live this way. And there was something else that I was just thinking about that. Okay, well, we can keep going.
It'll come
back. I'm sure it will.
Solomon will circle around. And then the wrap up verse, another one line, this is what's going to happen. Behold, the righteous shall be recompensed in the earth, much more the wicked and the sinner. So the righteous, they will be rewarded for how they act here on earth. And that's, you don't even think about the rewards that we're going to get in heaven for all of the things that we do.
Yeah.
But even on earth, we will be blessed by being righteous. And if even we get blessed this much, those wicked and the sinners are going to get their reward 3 or 4 times more. If you go looking for wrong, you're going to get it. And the consequences, getting paid $5 for being good and getting 5 spankings for being bad, the spankings always hurt more than that $5 is good.
Right.
I mean, the wicked and the sinner, they're getting their recompense. They're getting their consequences.
And I had to look up that word recompense because I had in my mind an idea of what I thought it would mean, but and I liked when you look up definitions, it gives you kind of a more well-rounded idea of what it's talking about. And it said one of the main definitions for recompense was like a peace treaty. And so it said the righteous shall be recompensed in the earth. So saying the righteous will have a peace treaty with the earth or the world around them. So if I'm choosing righteousness, I've made peace with those around me. And then it says much more the wicked and the sinner. So it's a war. It's we've got peace. If you're living righteously, you've got peace with the world around you. And if you choose wickedness, you've declared war with the world around you. So you've made a pact, and it's gonna cause you pain. But
there's always those bad guys that are gonna come back after you.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't know how long we've been going. Have we been going a while? Say
41 minutes.
Oh, okay. Well, I think that's long enough. But I just want to close it out. Then I guess we'll be done for today, and I hope everybody has enjoyed this and feel like you have a better. Let's see. Yeah.
Nobody said anything.
No, it's okay. We'll all see it later. You can always send in messages.
Comments.
Yeah, and also as we're talking about righteousness, I just want to always bring out the thought that God is our righteousness. Right. So when if anybody's watching this, that you're like, righteousness. What are you talking about?
That I don't want to do, and I always don't do what I want to do.
Yes, and we just always want to be clear that the message of the Bible is that Jesus Christ is righteousness, and we're not. We're human. We are sinners. We have, like Pastor preached in his Easter message on Sunday. You don't have to teach a little kid to sin. It's in us to do things that are harmful to us. And the book of Proverbs is a book of wisdom, but I think if Solomon had one thing he could say to us right now, it would be to choose Jesus, because you have to have God as your righteousness before you can delve into all of the other things that bring you all this blessing in your life. So if anybody's watching and you've never chosen Jesus as your righteousness, never said, Jesus, I accept you and what you did for me when you came and lived a perfect life and died on the cross, and I choose that for me. That is what gets us a home in heaven when we die. That is what gets us forgiveness with God for all of our sins, past, present, and future, because guess what? I'm not going to wake up perfect tomorrow, are you?
No.
So, if there's anybody watching that, I see a comment
Maggie.
from Maggie. Hi, Maggie, if you're still watching. If there's anybody watching that has not yet chosen Jesus as your righteousness, there's no way that any of us can be righteous enough on our own. And even if you were to abide by every do and don't in the Bible, if you did everything you possibly could every day of your life, but you never chose Jesus, you would miss the boat. So don't miss it, and choose Jesus, choose him. That is what the Bible teaches us, that he is our righteousness. And so I just want to put that out there.
And it makes living righteously so much easier.
Yes,
because then it's not up to you to choose righteousness every time.
Yeah.
You get up in the morning, you pray, God, help me to choose to do right.
Yeah.
Help me to be wise.
Yeah.
And then he guides us. The Holy Spirit tells us what to do if we just ask, and we don't have to do it on our own.
Yeah, and it's so encouraging. The message of the Bible and of salvation is that it's been done for us, and that is so. It's a weight off your shoulders to know that it's not all on me. I don't have to try to be the best person that ever lived in order to have God's favor and God's forgiveness. I just have to choose Jesus, who was the best person
Right.
that ever lived, and he did everything needed and necessary for that. So anyway, thanks for watching today, those of you who watched. And send us a message if you have any questions. And we're so thankful to be able to do this.
Yeah, I'm
And
sorry it's not Tuesday morning, it's
Right, yeah.
Wednesday evening, but
yeah, it's just what works out. We're now homeschooling. So
right.
yes. So anyway, hope everybody has a great day, and we will see you next week.
We love you all. We miss meeting in person.
Yep.
Hopefully soon we'll be able to meet back up in real life.
Yes.